Hello budget bakers, welcome back. Today we are making one of my favorite fall treats. We are making an apple crisp. Yes, we are. This recipe costs approximately $7 to make, and it will make an 8x8 baking dish full. This can also be known as a dump cake. So I like to call it apple crisp. It kind of just depends. But I have to tell you, I do use fresh apples to make this recipe. Usually with a dump cake, you use something canned, maybe like canned apples or some type of canned fruit on the bottom. So what makes it similar to a dump cake is that we are actually going to use yellow cake mix for our crunch. So let's get started. I am going to peel and dice up about 5 apples. This recipe calls for 6 apples, the smaller variety, but one of my apples was quite a bit larger. So we're gonna go with 5 apples. Otherwise, you could use 6 smallies. All right, let's get started. What we're going to do is we are going to start by peeling and dicing up our apples, and I am going to show you how I like to do that. So I like to cut my apple into, cut the core, I guess you could say, into a square, like that. And then I'll come in and I will peel the apple. And then after we peel each slice, it's okay if you leave a little bit on here and there. That's no problem. I am actually going to come in and cut them into small pieces. Dime size, I guess, would be the best way to explain the size of the pieces. So we are going to go ahead and cut all 5 of the apples that way. And as soon as I get them all peeled and cut, I will be back to show you what to do next. All right, so here I am finishing up the last apple, but I wanted to take a moment to speak with you about apples and about what apples that I like to use for this recipe. So my favorite apples to use are Fuji and Pink Lady. However, you could use whatever type of apple you have or whatever type of apple is your favorite. So if you use something more tart, like a Granny Smith, so to say, you are going to have a little bit more of a tart flavor to your crisp. I like mine pretty sweet, so that's why I use the type of apples that I use. All right, so I have got all 5 of my apples peeled and diced. I won't say diced, cut in the size of a dime. Some of them you'll see have a little bit of skin on there, but I like to do that. I like to leave it that way. It just adds a little bit more flavor for me. Now we are going to add some lemon juice over the top, which is about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which I have already poured into this cup here. So let's get that added on. I'm going to grab a spoon and I am going to stir that up just to combine. And then you can either use another bowl or a plate. I will use this. Let me scoot this over for you. This is a 1 cup. We are going to add the dry ingredients for this recipe into this cup here, which is going to include 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose flour, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So I have already prepared my brown sugar, which equaled approximately 1/3 of a cup. These are packed tablespoons full. Then I have my cinnamon here, which was the 2 teaspoons. And I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of flour here, which is 2 tablespoons, like I said, of the all-purpose flour. So let's go ahead and add that into the mix. 1 and 2. Perfect. All right, and then we are going to mix this all together. Once we get this combined, it's going to go over our apples. The reason you want to combine it separately or put it in a separate bowl before you add it to the apples is because you want to make sure that it's all mixed together well. You don't want to have some apples loaded with flour and then no flour on other apples, so to say. All right, there we go. We are going to add this in a little at a time because we are going to stir to coat the apples with the mixture. Okay. Ooh, that is smelling phenomenal. Smells like fall in a bowl. All right, so just get that all mixed together well, and when it's incorporated here, we will move on to our next step. That looks pretty good to me. All right, now we are going to add our maple syrup, which is approximately 2 tablespoons. Now, when I added the 2 tablespoons of maple syrup to this little bowl, I added just a touch more because some usually get stuck in the bottom of the measuring spoon, and I wanted to make sure that I had exactly what I needed. Those little measuring spoons sometimes are it's hard to get everything out of it when it's a sticky liquid like maple syrup. All right, so we've got that all mixed together. Now we're going to take it over to our pan on the stove, which we are going to heat to medium heat. And then we're going to add this right in and we're going to cook it up. Okay, so I've got my pan heated. It's actually pretty warm. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I don't want to brown like the apples, so to say. I want to cook them. There we go. You know, I don't want to sear them. All right, so here we go. Make sure we get everything out of the bowl into the pan. And then I have some water here too, because we're going to need to add that to the pan a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to cook these apples down for about 15 to 20 minutes on medium heat. And like I said, I have some water here. I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. This way it helps steam them a little bit. Alrighty. And I am going to be here stirring occasionally and cooking the apples. And then when they're ready to go and all cooked through, we'll be back to put our crisp together. My apples are cooking on the stove. Like I said, we'll stir those occasionally. We don't have to stir them constantly. So while that is happening, I am going to come here. I have 1 stick of salted butter, and I am going to cut it into little squares, probably about teaspoon squares. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut the whole stick like that because one of our upcoming steps, we are going to add this butter to the top of the dish before we bake it. So I like to go ahead and slice it all up in advance. This way, when I need it, it's ready for me. And I don't have to slice, place. I could just go ahead and slice it all up and then just place. It's just the way that I like to do it. You can really do it either way. All right, so this, I've got one more slice. This is all sliced up. See, it only took a few seconds. And it is going to be sitting here waiting for me when I need it. All right, so as the apples cook, you can see it is getting thick. And sometimes the sugar can stick to the bottom of the pan. So to deglaze the pan, all you have to do is add just a touch of water. That'll do the trick. And this way you can keep cooking the apples without them sticking to the bottom of the pan. My apples are ready. You can see they're very warm. I like my apples to be cooked with just a little bit of a crisp to them. I don't like mine particularly very, very soft, almost to the point of being soggy, because we do have to bake this. Okay, so what I did, let me show you. What I did is I sprayed my baking dish with cooking spray. Now I'm going to take my apples, maybe. I'm going to pour them into the dish. Sorry, friends, but I'm right-handed, so I have to lift the tray this way with my left hand. So I'm sorry that you weren't able to see that. Okay, so we've got our apples here. We're going to spread them evenly on the bottom of the pan. Baking dish. Oh, that smells so delicious. Holy cannoli. It really smells like fall. It's so delicious. Something about the cinnamon with the sugar smells so good. Okay, I have a cinnamon problem. I love cinnamon. So I like to take about a half a teaspoon of cinnamon and sprinkle it over this evenly as possible, just to give me just a little bit more of that cinnamon punch. Okay, now we take our yellow cake mix. You can use yellow, you can use white, you can use spice if you like, you can use butter pecan, you can get creative, and you can use whatever flavor that you think you would like. And you're gonna sprinkle only half the bag over the top. So the other half of the bag we are going to seal and save to use on our next crisp. All right, there we go. That's about half of the bag. So let's get that evened out. Perfect. Now we are going to take our butter that we have already sliced, and I am going to place it over the top evenly. So there we have it. We have our sliced stick of salted butter all placed over the top of the crisp. I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees. It's almost up to temp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to bake it in the oven for approximately 30 minutes. It depends on your oven. I'm going to pop it in mine for 30 minutes. And if it's not yet lightly browned and bubbly, I'll put it in for another 5 minutes. If it looks good and it's lightly brown and bubbly, I'm going to take it out, and then we will come back and we will have a look and a taste. Okay, so just a little tip for you. The apple mixture does tend to stick to the bottom of your pan, even after we added the water to deglaze the pan. So what I like to do is I like to take my pan and fill it with hot water. And what happens is it loosens it up, and I'm able to take my wooden spoon and loosen all the sugar and all that stuff up off the bottom before I wash it with my scrubber. Because what will happen is if I don't do this and I go to clean it with the scrubber, all of this stuff is going to get stuck on my scrubber. And I don't want that. So I just fill it like this with hot water, and then I loosen it up with my wooden spoon, and then I'm good to go as far as cleaning. My house smells heavenly right now. Let me just say that. This crisp puts off such a delicious aroma of fall. I don't even know how else to explain it other than it's heavenly. So what I've done is I did bake it 350, 30 minutes, and I took it out because it was bubbly and browned around the edges. If you're going to bake this in advance for an event or a gathering or whatever, you can bake it blonde, meaning on the lighter side. Bake it maybe for 20, 22 minutes, let it cool, put it in the fridge, then pop it in the oven for like another 20, 25 minutes right before you want to eat it. And it will be perfect that way. Now, personally, I like to eat it cold, right out of the fridge. I don't need to warm it up. So I'll eat it warm when it comes out of the oven, and then I like to eat it cold. All right, so anyway, let's get going with the taste here. So I am going to take some from a corner, and I do have some ice cream here to put on top because why not? Now, this is still piping hot. I highly recommend you let it cool. At least, at least to warm, not piping. All right, so let me show this to you. First of all, this is what we've got. I can't even taste it. It's too hot. But look at that. Oh my gosh, doesn't that look amazing? It does. It looks amazing, and it smells amazing. Maybe I can let it cool just enough to have a taste. Okay. Oh my. That is so good. That apple mixture that we made, you could eat it by itself. No joke. It is delicious. So I am going to get a spoon for my ice cream, put some ice cream on top. I am going to enjoy this. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this fall baking at its finest. I would absolutely love for you to like my video and subscribe to my channel. It's a fantastic way to support your creators, a free way at that. You can even click the little bell and get notified whenever I have something new come out on my YouTube channel. So let me know in the comments, what is your favorite dessert to make in the fall? Also, let me know if you've ever tried making your crisp like this. I'd like to hear about that. Thank you so much for being here with me today, friends. Happy budget baking.